The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode.
Let's go!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's that same time, Mark. It's that same time on a Monday night. You know what time it is. Yes, me and Mark are back for What's Going On. This is the show where me and Mark talk about what's going on in the world of football, in particular to do with a certain brilliant world-class team, top 4 team, Mark, in the northeast of England. That is Newcastle United. That's what's going on. We are fucking class. Joe Willock should be an England regular. Callum Wilson's back. All is well with the world, mate. How are you doing, pal?
I'm pretty good, and Jacob Murphy continues to keep his king of the shit house. He's he's become a comedy genius now. So well played again.
He really has. I think we should just take Murphy off the back of his shirt and just write shit house on the back of his shirt, because it's just he's taken it to a next level. He really is. It's absolutely superb. But we'll get stuck into to the timekeeper that is Jacob Murphy and everything else in a minute as well. Just before we do, a little reminder. If you're new to the channel, consider clicking subscribe. We'd love you to come and join us. We are only about 4 off 2,600 subscribers, so smash that button. Come and join us. You won't regret it. All free crack on the Evermore YouTube channel. 2 weekly shows, this one Monday and normally Wednesdays, but this week it's going to be Thursday because the game's on Wednesday. And then pop-up videos left, right and centre, reviews, previews, transfer stories, you name it. All free. Smash the button. Come and join us. And we're live tonight. As always, we've got a few of you already in the comments. We love engaging with you guys in the comments. We don't just breeze by you like some other channels. BT, special shout out to BT. You were in before we were, I think, BT, mate. So good to see you in the house. And you're right, mate. It should have been another 5-0. Absolutely. Roger's in the house.
How you doing?
I know. Roger's in the house. Les is here. Good to see you, Les. Gibbo's joined us as well. Good to see you, Gibbo. And we've got Jimmy in the house as well. Is spot on. Carl saying TikTok. Absolutely. Check your clock is right. Carl, Jacob Murphy can help you. And good to see you in the comments too, mate, as well. So we're going to get stuck in, Mark. Obviously, we're off the back of an unbelievable result at the weekend. You know, the tagline that you pulled up, mate, is revenge. Yes, revenge over those bastards for the Carabao Cup final. Eddie played it really well in the media. He said it's not about revenge, you know, it's just about another game and everything else. What I love about Eddie Howe, Mark, the most is when he's in front of the cameras, he's got this, you know, calm kind of, you know, articulate demeanor. I'm pretty sure when the camera stopped rolling, he goes back into the lads and says, "We fucking owe these one. We owe them one. Let's get in and fuck them up," you know. And that's exactly what the lads did from minute one, Mark. The intensity and everything. You got some stats in a minute just to talk about how class the lads were. But mate, how good were we at the weekend against them, mate? How good were we?
Yeah, it's not a stretch to say it was. They were spectacular. They you're right. From minute one, you saw the press. You saw the pressure that they were putting on, particularly in the high areas. I mean, the number of times you saw Isaac run down the defenders or the goalkeeper to sort of pressure the ball and make them make mistakes. And it was every single man on the pitch. They were to a man. They were absolutely brilliant. That was probably the best performance of the season, I would say, because they controlled it. There was that first spell in the second half where you just thought, hang on, you're letting Man U back into this, but then quickly snuffed that out and got back into control. Never let them settle, never let them create any real opportunities. And we're utterly dominant from minute one really through minute 90, or 95, wasn't it? So yeah, just a really, really solid, brilliant performance.
Absolutely. Good shout by Daniel there as well. The bench was so strong. I remember seeing the bench and I was thinking, we've actually got players that can come on and do something off the bench. And they did do, you know, he made that triple sub, didn't he? Obviously 2, then the 1. With Wilson, who obviously gets the goal as well. But it's great to see impact players that can actually come on and turn a game. I mean, you know, Anthony Gordon, we mentioned him in the post-match, even to you, Jules, cheers for joining. I mentioned about Anthony Gordon in the post-match. He's probably not going to get a lot of credit, really, because, you know, he wasn't a kind of headline-grabbing name. Bruno and Isaac get all the headlines. Wilson gets it with a goal. But the shift that Gordon put in, Mark, as well, the graft, that ball he put across the box for Isak. I mean, that kid looks like he's going to bring something to this squad. And I'm so excited to see what he can do with a bit of fitness, and even as Daniel says there, Anderson as well, he went right at them as well when he come on. He had no fear. He was straight running at Darlow and everything, wasn't he? He just didn't give a shit, did he? He was right in there. So good on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, every single one of them that grafted, every one of them came in and did something and really affected the game in a positive way. You're right, even Anderson for that little cameo at the end, he just came on and got right to where everybody else had left off. And he was just fantastic to watch. We saw Bruno's play a slightly different role for much of the game with Joe Linton on the bench. Which we'll come to, but they were, the performances from Longstaff, from Saint-Maximin as well, and I know we're going to come to that in a minute. They just were at that level the way you want them to be. They hit their mark.
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting because we were very vocal. I certainly was very vocal about this whole McTominay's an upgrade on Longstaff. Not what I saw on Sunday, mate. Not what I saw at all. Sure, Longstaff was head and shoulders above McTominay. I know he's had a good week for Scotland. I'm not trying to dig that out too much, but Sean was unbelievable in that game. He should have had a 25-yard raker as well. He hit that so sweet. I wish that had screamed in the top corner. But him and Willock, their energy, just before we look at the stats, Mark, these two lads, surely, and people are talking about it now in mainstream media. Jamie Redknapp was talking about it. Collymore has been talking about it. TalkSport have been talking about it. Surely that Longstaff and Willock keep playing like this with that energy and that athleticism. It can't be far off an England call-up, mate. Surely can. The mark for a friendly or something. I mean, Howe, Southgate, what are you playing at?
Yeah, I think Willock's probably a lot closer than Longstaff will be. I think Longstaff is I think probably going to be one of those players that has a tremendous season, but will miss out on things like England.
Henderson's finished. You're not thinking an England shirt, mate. He can barely fucking run in a Liverpool midfield. Surely Sean could fill in and do the Henderson role. Do you not think? Out of him and Willock as two players.
I do think they're different in terms of what they bring to the side. He's not gonna. I don't think that Sean will sit centrally like I think Henderson does an awful lot of the time for England, and be that pivot, that player that just sits in the middle and dictates and can go get forward. We know he can do that, or he's done that in the past. But I think he's probably going to be a victim of the Southgate era, that he won't get a look in. Even if he continues this form, I just think he's. It's just one of those things where he's just going to be unlucky not to get one, despite how well he's played. And he has been brilliant, and he took a lot of flack earlier in the season for being the poor member of that midfield, but he's been absolutely brilliant.
He's been superb, Mark. I mean, at the minute you can't really argue a case for him being out of the team, and even Joe Linton couldn't get back in. Is how good Sean's played. And obviously Willock as well. But we're gonna have a little bit of detail here in Bruno, with Bruno's performance, mate. I mean, as you rightly said, I think big shout out to Dan in our chat who pointed this out as well earlier on. That and in the game, the aftermath of the game, we saw a slightly different side of Bruno in terms of he wasn't getting forward and and making the passes. He did later on in the game. Funny enough, when Joe Linton came on and gave him that extra buffer, because he knows that Joe Linton's going to be there to cover his arse if he goes for a wander. But earlier on in the game, I mean, I think in the Carabao Cup final, just to rewind that a little bit, I don't think Bruno was fit. We had this conversation after the game. I think he was carrying an ankle knock. He didn't look himself. He was still class, but he didn't look himself. Didn't look the Bruno that we know. At the weekend, we saw the Bruno that we all know, we all love, but in a slightly different capacity, Mark, in terms of his defensive work that he did. He's off the ball work, breaking up the play, starting us off on moves, just his positional sense and his radar, reading the game and everything. I mean, you got a stat slide there, Mark, about his passing involvement. And I mean, this kid, we call him a hybrid midfielder. I mean, honestly, I've got to pinch myself sometimes that we signed this lad for like under 40 million quid. All of the top four scouts must have went for a piss or something when this lad was playing for Lyon, because how in the name of Christ did they not spot this kid and get him? I know Arsenal were close, but mate, we have got a hell of a footballer on our hands here in Bruno Guimaraes. And just pull up the slides, Mark, and wax lyrically about him with your stat brain, because I could listen to it all day, mate. Well, you've got on mute. I've lost the sound there. You've got on mute.
Sorry. So to talk
I can't listen to it all day because you've got on mute.
I've got it on mute. No, to talk about his defensive duties, look, he was involved in 15 ground duels yesterday. He won 9 of them. He had 4 tackles, 1 interception. He drew a couple of fouls. He didn't lose possession an awful lot. 90% passing accuracy and 3 key passes. Those are the kind of the numbers to go with it. But the sort of the bits that I love, and in particular, I think this one just shows the sort of the deeper nature of where he played yesterday, and you saw him patrolling that slightly just pulled back around the sort of halfway bottom of the centre circle, and those passes in and around that area. He wasn't afraid to drop into that hole in the middle of between the defence and the midfield and start to play the ball right. In particular, we're always going to see those balls heading towards Trippier because Trippier just gives such a good outlet. But the number of places that he's involved over the pitch is, it's nothing short of staggering at times for Bruno. You can see the number of times he recovers the ball, and then that inch perfect ball across again to set up the goal and dropping it onto Maxi's head, who I give an awful lot of credit for again. That was
great shout.
Just
great
brilliant.
Shout by Tucoy and the Megs, mate. Mark, you've got to mention the Megs. How good was that, man? Fucking hell, that was superb.
Yeah, that was it was a thing of beauty, wasn't it?
Was it McTominay? Was it McTominay that it was, wasn't it? I think I'm sure it was. No, it was Weghorst. It was Weghorst.
Was it Weghorst? Was it?
I think it was Weghorst. It was Weghorst because I saw it again on Twitter earlier on today, and Weghorst kind of threw his arm out as if he twat, like kind of like grab him, and Bruno just like wriggled free, like later, mate. He's passed it off.
But he's completely got that ability, hasn't he? He's got the ability to move the ball with his feet, to move the ball passing. He's an exceptional footballer. The passing networks again yesterday, and credit these to Mark R Stats on Twitter, where I've got these from. And you just see him again. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. When he's missing, you don't have that hub in midfield. And you can just see the ability to shift the ball left, shift the ball right. He's not afraid to move the ball quickly. He's at the heart of absolutely everything that Newcastle do well in that regard. And yeah, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
He was, mate. I mean, I think there's a comment there from Carlos, bang on. He's so calm on the ball. He's one of them types of players. I mean, you think back to, I'm talking about players like, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, but you've got Xavi, Iniesta, those types of players, Busquets, even Michael Carrick to an extent. It's almost when they get the ball, it's like time slows down. Like for the game is at their own pace. They dictate the pace. And in real time, the game is flying, flowing, everyone's running all over the place. But with Bruno, it's almost like he's got his own little like dimension. He just slows it all down. Everybody's running in slow motion. He's like, bang, pass, through ball. And then before you know it, we're on the break again, or we're having a goal-scoring opportunity. But he's what I love about him as well, Mark, even more than his ability, is his character, man. Screaming "Vamos" at the crowd. And I mean, that picture of him going fucking nuts at the crowd when the goal goes in. Trippier's running over, hugging him just because he realizes he's on his own. And he's just a fucking superb footballer and a great character. I mean, I think Lee from our squad put a video up of just a pre-match when he's walking in and he sees is it Serena Taylor, the photographer, and he's just like, Serena, and he's like fist bumping her and stuff. He just seems like a proper sound lad as well, and just a real character. So I think on top of all of that, the fact that he's an amazing footballer, we've got such a great character here, and such a future leader. I mean, Trips is brilliant. I think we can't underestimate the quality that Trippier brings and the leadership he brings. But he's not getting any younger. You're looking for future captains. Mate, Bruno Guimaraes, future captain of Newcastle United, if we keep him, if we build this team around him.
There's no reason why not, is there? He's.
Why not?
I think he is the footballing leader on the field now, isn't he?
Yes.
Trippier
he sets the tone, doesn't he?
the man manager on the pitch. But also sets a tone in terms of moving the ball, getting the ball forward, and talk about Trippier as well. Just quickly bring this quick graphic up.
Yeah, just before you do, you're giving Jules uni flashbacks here. I hope he's not scaring you, Jules. Is it a good or a bad thing, Jules? Did you have a good uni? Sorry, Mark. Go
on. But no, I mean, just in terms of this ball progression, pass and carry, obviously Saint-Maximin's way at the top of carrying the ball.
Get onto him in a minute.
How much further forward Trippier is than every other player on the field in terms of passing the ball and progressing the ball forward. Tells you everything about his role in that side. So yeah, very much a leader in that regard. I think Bruno probably. I think there's an element.
That's a good point. Bites a coin as well. He has got a bit of that.
But sometimes you want that. You want that emotion to run through, and I get that. Could be maybe he'll sort of grow a little bit more. I agree with Roger. I think Botman is absolutely tailor-made to be a captain.
Just a bit on Botman as well. Rolls Royce again at the weekend, absolutely class. Just everything about this kid. Again, Man United fans will be watching these lads playing for us. Even Trips as well. Trippier, Guimaraes and Botman. The Man U fans, the ones who didn't fuck off before 80th minute when they realised they were battered, they'll be watching that game thinking, how the hell did we not get these three players? Like, what the hell were our scouts doing? Because, I mean, those three could get into most Premier League teams, I think, mate, the way they play. Maybe with the exception of City, possibly. But everybody else, I could see those three getting in everybody's side. I'm not trying to sell them, by the way. Obviously, I want the black and white shirt for as long as possible. But honestly, I think somebody mentioned there before, Mark, 4 or 5 more players added to that. And we'll get into the top 4 in the fixtures in a minute. But, if you get to the summer and we've got Champions League football to offer, and you throw in, a James Maddison, you throw in a new left back, no offense to Dan Burn, but a high quality left back, you throw in a proper number 6 or number 4, as PK says, we've got a serious squad there, mate. I mean, we're already up there right now. If you throw in another 2 or 3 quality players, Mark, I mean, what could this squad do next season?
Yeah, well, you've seen the level they're at. You hope that is the new norm. That level for those 11 or 12 players is exactly where they now are playing at. And then you're right. If you add 4 or 5 more quality players into that squad, give you options, give you more strength off the bench. And it's just exactly where you want to be. And I think you're going to have European football next season, which is going to bring a higher caliber of player in as well.
Great shout, Mark. We were actually watching this just before we come on, Mark. Great shout. What a fucking strike by Michael Keane, by the way. Jesus Christ. What did you say, Mark? Company-esque?
I think it was Company. That's the first thing I said as soon as it screamed in was that is very reminiscent of Company's goal for City a few years ago. So, and I think the commentator then went and said it as well.
Absolutely. He must have been listening to you, mate. They've got no pat of these lot. There's a stealing off your TV when you're talking. But yeah, it was a hell of a strike. I mean, I think the results for Newcastle in terms of the top 4 push this weekend, you couldn't have asked for better results for Newcastle than what came through. Just looking at the fixtures, we looked at might as well talk a little bit about that before we get stuck in to the other performances and just some of the individual performances. But I think I looked at it as out of the 10 games we've got left, I think I was banking on about 6 wins. We were talking about Spurs as well, Mark. I mean, the Spurs are Spursy, aren't they? They've done a Spurs again tonight. But they've got 3 games back-to-back at the end of April. They've got us at St James's Park. They've got Man United at their stadium. And then they've got Liverpool, I think. Is it their place or at Anfield? I'm trying to remember where it is now. It's Anfield. It's Anfield, mate. So that's 3 games back-to-back that could just nobble them completely out of top 4. Where do you see this going? Just quickly before we'll get to the individual players and they did brilliantly at the weekend. Do you think this is in our hands? Because I do. I think we're in the driving seat here, mate. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, look, you absolutely are in the driving seat. The momentum, and we'll again, that's something to come on to. The momentum is actually absolutely with Newcastle now. It's 3 wins on the spin. Tottenham have drawn their last 2. Man U haven't won in 3. So that turnaround and where you sort of thought maybe this tails off, maybe this turns back into a European, Europa League fight with the likes of Brighton and stuff. But honestly, the fixtures that are coming up now, you're right. You'd argue probably 4 wins from April at least, and that keeps you. I think that very much keeps you up there. While everybody else is tripping over themselves, you just quietly keep going along, picking up wins, and this is exactly what you need to be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we need our top players playing the way that they are, Mark. And there was a lad who stood up, and we've had some shit in the comments for giving him grief, and I think I said this in the post-match. We're quick to give him grief. We're going to quick to praise the lad. I think we saw the real ASM at the weekend that we all scream out for every single week. We don't see enough of him. He has flashes. It's never consistent, but he was superb at the weekend, mate, wasn't he? I mean, have you got some of his stats in the background as to how impactful he was? And I mean, even Neville was waxing lyrically about him all game in the commentary, in terms of how good he can be and how much as a right back he'd be a nightmare to play against.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely had Dallow's life for an awful lot of the 68 minutes that he was on the pitch. In terms of his sort of influence, you see on the right-hand side, Newcastle in possession, just where his area was. And if you look sort of closely, you mix that in with Willock's area of influence as well. And the two of them, I thought, worked really, really solidly together. But it's getting Maxi in the right place with a ball at his feet. And I put in our chat, look, he was given time to get the ball down and to turn and run. Yesterday, he had 38 touches of the ball. He had 75% passing accuracy, 6 key passes, 2 big chances created, including obviously the goal. He also got involved in 8 duels, of which he won 50% of those. Dribble attempts, I mean, it gives him 2 of 5. I've got to be honest, on the eye test, I thought it was more than that, but he was exceptional, so well. And he did give the ball away a little bit. I think he lost the ball 12 times, but his presence down that side and in turning the Dallow inside, and when he plays the ball across a couple of times for attempts on goal. But he was exceptional again yesterday, and we've spoken about this before. Yes, we've given him some jip because he's had some poor games, but that Maxi is what we want to see. We want to see him flying because there's virtually no other player like him in the league. He's so exciting to watch when he's got the ball at his feet and he's confident. You've got a smile, and you want some end product from him, and we got that yesterday. We got the confident swagger when he picked the ball up. His first thought was turn, and I'm going to go straight back at you, Dallow, because he couldn't defend against him. Yeah,
I think Isak being on the pitch gives him more confidence as well, because I think they've got a really good connection because of Isak's speed and his ability to pull out wide. When he pulls out wide, I think it allows Maxi to tuck inside and either look for that through ball or even take it inside and start running at players like he does, because he knows Isak's there. But comment there from Carl about him not tracking back enough. I mean, Neville did say that in the commentary that Byrne was kind of on his own against Anthony, and at times he did look a little bit exposed. I mean, I think having Joe Willock in the side and having Joe Linton in the side, we've talked about this before, gives you that cover. If Maxi's there, it gives you that cover to come across. They've got the athleticism to do it. And I think had Joe Linton been in from the start, we probably wouldn't have seen Anthony getting as much change out of Byrne as he did. He didn't really do much with the ball, Anthony, in all fairness, did he, when he got by Byrne? But he did get by him a couple of times because Maxi was kind of more on the attack. But as you say, Mark, sometimes when you have a player like that, you've got to just, accept the fact that that's what you're going to get from them, that you're not going to have as much defensive cover from them. But if their teammates can support them with energy like they do, and you get him on the break, if he's on the halfway line and say Joe Willock or Joe Linton wins that back and they knock that ball down the line, who's going to catch this bloke when he's at full pelt? Very few people in the league. Certainly not Darlow, who, I mean, Maxi must be licking his fucking chops when he saw that team lineup, mate. Must have been sitting going like that in the dressing room because he was thinking, I'm going to have a good day today.
Yeah, I think obviously Man U were hampered by the fact they couldn't call on Wan-Bissaka. I think they probably would have preferred to
He
play
would
in
have
that
been
area, but
better against Maxi because he's better
yeah,
one-to-one, isn't he? Yeah.
I think he's quicker. He is a better one-on-one defender, I think, in that regard, and certainly would be able to sort of shepherd Maxi around a little bit. But you play what's ahead of you, don't you? And he was brilliant, and I know he was several people's man of the match when we saw some of the comments and stuff, and that's the measure of how well he played, and that's now 2 games out of 3 or 4 where he's been very good. To go back to the was it the Wolves game where that link up between him and Isak was brilliant when he was playing the balls. Was it the Wolves game when he was playing the balls over the top?
It was for Isak. Yeah, he was slipping. It was a different side of Maxi that we'd never really seen before.
He was just dropping a little bit deeper and then allowing Isak to run in behind, and that element, it's refreshing to see actually that he's got a little bit of something else in his locker. But yeah, he was magnificent yesterday. You always wanted one of when he cuts in on his right foot just to put one in the top corner as well, because that would have just capped the day off.
You do. Yeah, Roger saying Trips was his man of the match. Yeah, I think that's the thing about a man of the match, isn't it? I mean, all the lads were superb. Just a little bit on our opponents in a second, but all the lads were superb. I think, you could have 20 Newcastle fans in a room who would all pick a different man of the match, probably. I think there would be some commonality between us. But I think more importantly, that the starting 11 were brilliant. Shout out to Jacob Murphy, not just for shithousing. What we're seeing with Murphy now, and I'll be Murphy's biggest critic. I used to call him, the scarecrow, didn't I? If he only had a brain. But it's almost like Eddie Howe has gone to Oz and found him a brain, because he seems to be thinking about his pass before he hits it now. He's actually actively looking for overlaps. He's taking his time. He just looks calmer in his play, Mark, doesn't he? He doesn't look rushed like he was before, because nobody can deny the pace the lad's got. He's got fucking pace to burn, Murphy. He always has done. But he's been headless. He's been, panicky when he's been on the ball. He's rushed it too much. But looking at the kid now, I mean, he looks like he's just something's clicked. Whether it's the same kind of process that Shaw Longstaff went through, that Emil Kraft went through, that Joe Linton went through. Murphy's starting to look like he could be a valuable member of the squad, mate. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud, Mark. But what are you thinking? I've been drinking. I swear, this is water. Not
what is in that water? Yeah. But look, when you consider what your comment was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when he was in the starting line, it was like, oh, for fuck's sake. But no, he's done a brilliant job over recent weeks, and there is a calmness now to him. And he's exactly that, Ash. It is belief in the role that he's been asked to play. He's doing it well. Look, he's not a world beater. He's not gonna suddenly break records or anything like that. But he's a serviceable player. Jeez, that was hard.
Serviceable player. What's in your coffee? Have you been drinking?
But he's got pace. He works hard. He can put the ball in. He occupies that left back well. He can hold the ball. He can drop into sort of almost the right back role where Trippier gets overlaps. He can hold and allow Tripp to overlap and then play the ball in well. There were a few passes yesterday where he just didn't have the pace on the ball, but he was another one that wasn't a standout, but he puts an 8 out of 10 shift in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great shout by Jules. That says how far we've come when we're debating, not arguing over the man of the match. So that's a great show.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm laughing at Gibbo's comment here. So he said Isak for him, his ball control was sexual. Now I'm just worried that you set the bots off now, Gibbo, because every time somebody says something like a code word, we'll just end up getting loads of kiss me quick hearts in the comments here. So I can't wait till they come dropping it. Absolutely. But we've got another comment there from Dan. Sup, boys? He says, are they eating their words about ASM right now? Oh, Burn. No, not eating my words about ASM. We've always said we want him to do well, Dan. I think the thing about ASM, it isn't just us. There's a massive section of Newcastle fans that get frustrated by him because they know how good he can be. And then there's some games where he's anonymous and he doesn't seem to want to know. He gets frustrated. He throws his hands up. And I suppose when you deal with a maverick player like that, Mark, you've got to put up with that sometimes. We had it with Ginola, we had it with Robert, we had it with Ben Arthur. It's not the first time we've had a player like this. I think the Maxi one is funny because there's such a love for the lad in the fan base because he is such an exciting player. But if you got that Maxi every week, he probably wouldn't be here now because we'd have sold him before the takeover. Because if he was playing like that every single week, somebody would have come and thrown 50, 60 million quid at us for that player. And we'd have probably sold him under the Ashley regime. Little plug, tune in for See You Next Tuesday tomorrow, guys. You might say ghost from the past. But if we if we had that lad chipping in like that every single week, then he would have been gone. But the thing is, he hasn't been consistent. But can he be consistent moving forward? But as some of the guys have said, especially with Anthony Gordon coming on and having that little cameo again, is Maxi still an Eddie Howe player? Can he adapt his game enough to be part of this guy's squad for next season? If we go out and buy a James Maddison or a Diaby or something like that, is Maxi going to be happy being a rotated player, or does he want to be the main man every week?
I think he wants to be, doesn't he? I mean, look at his interview last year. But
that was a good interview.
If he can take the confidence forward, and look, his two biggest performances this season have been against Manchester clubs at St James's Park. He was magnificent against Manchester City earlier in the season, unbelievable. He had, and not many players can outpace Kyle Walker, but he absolutely tore Kyle Walker to shreds.
Yeah,
he did the same thing, but in a different way to Diego Dallo yesterday. It was all in front of Dallo rather than running in behind him. It is down to his mentality now, and it's down, if Eddie can get him playing consistently now, and he's been a bit in and out, he's been a bit up and down in terms of his performance, in and out the side. If he can put that shift in every week, and he may only have to give you 60, 70 minutes, and he only, was 68 minutes yesterday. He might only give you that. But if you can put that in, he will take off, and he will create chances, and he will create goals, and he'll create them for himself and everybody else around. But it also allows, and it will pull space for other players. Look at how much time you have to, or how many players you have to pull across to almost double team him. It's the same when you look at players like Grealish at City. Teams will double up against him, but all of a sudden that allows the freedom elsewhere, and suddenly the right hand side is free, and Trippier can overlap easily because there aren't as many players over there. So it works wonders if he is on his game in more ways than one.
He's only 26 as well, so he's got plenty of peak years ahead of him. Absolutely. And Dan's back in the comments, obviously a big Maxi fan. If we get UCL, we need a bunch of guys. If you can press the guy for 68 minutes a week, then sub out. I'd have no complaints. Absolutely, Dan. Yeah, he's got plenty. He's got plenty of chance if we are top four. And I think if we keep playing the way we are, I'd be shocked if we win. Great comment that, Ash. I didn't see that. No, that's another reason for Murphy to be the shithouse prince of the Northeast. That is fucking superb. I love that. Love a bit of crack like that. To coincide, did you hear Eddie say he's adapting his style of thought of using early subs with the game evolving? Do you know that's really good? Because I think that's something that Eddie Howe's had very minimalistic criticism, and rightly so, during an unbelievable spell as Newcastle manager. But that has been something that people have got a bit grumbly about when he hasn't made changes quick enough. You can see he's being more decisive now, Mark, aren't you, with his changes to influence the games, and they're working. Even what I really loved about what Eddie did, not just talking to Ten-Hag, which we've got a great slide of in a minute, but what I loved the most about what Eddie did was when he was going to make the third sub, I think Isak just pressed, was it Dallo, and he won the ball back. And then you saw him go to Callum Wilson, you just sit down for a minute. He's going to do something here, because you could see something was brewing. And that's when Isak did his bit for the goal, wasn't it? When he got the touch and the goal came.
He pressured on De Gea, didn't he? And then moved across and won the free kick. Won the throw in that then led to the move.
That was from Dallo, wasn't it? He pressed Dallo and he fucking fluffed it, didn't he? And he won the throw in.
And it was one of those where he thought, has he has he just run out a little bit out of steam? And we've sort of had that comment from Eddie about not being able to play 90 minutes before the break. And you thought, is he just starting to ease up a little bit? And all of a sudden that burst came, and I thought, all right, he's got a little bit more in the tank. And that triple substitute was coming. That was going to be upmade in all one go, and then it was put to one side for a little bit. And Eddie just, I think, brilliant management in that regard to say, look, you've shown you can still do this. I'm not going to change things while you're still doing that, because we'll lose that. Because Callum Wilson isn't going to do that for you. Callum Wilson comes on and does exactly what Callum Wilson does. Callum Wilson should do.
A great shout on that, because obviously I listened to Callum Wilson's football podcast, which is unbelievable if no one's listened to that yet. The banter in that is absolutely superb. But, he was saying he felt rested, he felt, recharged from the trip to Dubai. And he said, I'm coming back, goals are coming and everything else. And I think I said this in the post-match, he looked like the Callum Wilson pre-World Cup when he come on. There was spring in his step. He looked like he had something about him. And then the little bit of shit house, the little nudge on Rashford. I mean, just, we're not a Man United podcast, right? But if you're a Man United fan, are you wondering why the fuck your worm with facial hair, the manager, is taking off your two centre-halves, and then Callum Wilson comes on and scores a header out jumping your centre-forward? Like, that is weirdness beyond belief, that, mate. I can't get my head around that.
It was such an odd thing that I don't think I've ever quite seen a manager.
Martinez was raging, wasn't he? Did you see Martinez on the bench? He was going fucking mad.
It was an odd thing, because Martinez is an exceptional defender, and he's very, to have taken Varane off, bring on, at the time, you're bringing on Fred Pellistri and Lindelof.
Easy views, eh?
It's such a downgrade in that regard, and then it was so open after it, and you could have played it perfectly at that point, because it was just a case of, right, we just need a chance now, and then it came, and a set piece goal again, a header from from a free kick, wasn't it? And he said a corner. It was just as good as a corner.
As long as he stays fit, Jimmy, keeps doing that, mate, we'll be happy, mate. We'll be happy.
Sorry, jumped to one side, but yeah, it was such an odd thing to do from Ten Hag, and and that's ultimately costing that second goal. But I mean, they were light years off Newcastle yesterday, and
mate, absolutely.
Just a couple of things about Ten Hag's comments.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that now, because and before the game, he was trying to get in the referee's mind, wasn't he, with all this time wasting shit, and then his goalkeeper, the length of time it took him to take a goal kick, we could do 3 podcasts. I think he was that fucking slow at kicking the ball. So I mean, you're going to get stuck into this, mate. But I don't like Ten Hag, and I told you he's an arrogant wank, but he made himself look a right prick, didn't he? Though, really, in this game, saying that before the game and then doing that as tactics.
Well, I mean, it's double, because he did it before the cup final as well, didn't he? About this whole, Newcastle with this annoying
the dark
side,
arts,
and what I mean. It's like pot kettle black, isn't it? Because you've got a side where your best player, maybe it's Rashford, is Bruno Fernandes. I mean, he's the master of throwing himself to the floor, holding his face when he's been stood on the foot, and
kicking handsome centre halves in the fucking forehead as well, and getting away with it.
He's just, I mean, he's the ultimate player. That I mean, was it Ash that said in our thing in our chat yesterday about which player is the one you'd most like to punch in the face, and Fernandes is the one. Absolutely, Fernandes is the one, because he's just got I really dislike him. He's just. I just stay on your feet. Do you know, it's the most frustrating thing, because he's got all the talent in the world and all the brilliance in that head and in his feet, and then he just throws himself to the floor. And you're like, if you stayed on your feet, you would create and score so many more goals. It's just, it's shit. But for Ten Hag to use that against Newcastle, when you've got those players really at the peak of their powers in your own squad, And then again to come out with all the time wasting, and then for De Gea to take 3 weeks for every goal kick.
It was
fucking
embarrassing.
I have no idea how De Gea doesn't get booked after 10 minutes in the first half, because he did it 3 or 4 times. And I'm sorry, you get a warning first time, you maybe get a second warning early in the game, and then that's it. You're booked, and then that stops. It has to stop at that point. He can't do it again. But the referee was so weak in that regard. He waved at him once, I think, in that sort of 3 or 4. It was
and then he spoke to Pope. He spoke to Pope straight away, didn't
he? Immediately he did it in the second half.
When Pope did it, as Andy says there, yeah, Ten Hag's trying to look at too much Fergie stuff. But when Ten Hag had a go at the fourth official about Nick Pope, there was a little bit of this going on the sideline, which was a nice sight to see from Eddie, and Tyndall was there as well. But Eddie was front and centre, giving it back to the fucking worm with a goatee, telling him, basically get fucking on your bike and fuck off, mate. And you decided to knock this up, mate, and homage to that.
It was the first, when I saw that picture, it was the first thing that came to mind. I went, I've seen that before. It's a madness cover. That is, that was the one thing that immediately came to mind. That has to be done.
Absolutely. As Tequin says there, come on, let's do the conga.
Yeah.
And Stephen's saying that Rat-Face Fernandez, that they came for a draw. BT said that Tyndall's been his usual. I love Tyndall. He's brilliant. Somebody was down injured, when he just kind of leaned over and he was like, "You all right? Get up then." He's fucking brilliant, man. He's just like maybe he's been teaching Murphy how to be a shithouse as well. Mark likes that, mate. Absolutely classy. Great job by Mark there. T-Dog said it was great to see Eddie tell him to fuck off as well and not leave it a mad dog. I do think Eddie's got this side to him, Mark. I think, like I say, he's got the in front of camera persona, and then he's got the behind the scene persona. And I do think there's fire in there with Eddie Howe. I don't think he takes shit off people. I think he keeps a calmness and a coolness on the sideline because he doesn't need to get involved in that. But I think he's done it at Klopp, or some do it with Klopp, didn't he? He told Klopp to fucking shut up as well, I think, when he was giving it all this. Didn't say anything.
The manager in the league's done that, Jurgen Klopp, to be fair.
Yeah. Klopp just fucking flick his Turkish teeth right out of his gob. The fucking wank that he is, honestly. Does my fucking head in. They were asking him about Potter, weren't they? About Potter and Rodgers, obviously 2 managers who've lost their jobs. And he was going, they asked him about it, and then he just went, I think the big question is, you're all surprised I'm still here. And you thought, you fucking narcissistic prick. Just give them an answer. Don't talk about yourself, man, you fucking arsehole. Like, no, they're not talking about you. They're talking about 2 managers who've lost their jobs. Honestly, I can't stand the bloke. I hope we beat them to top 4 just so I can laugh at them. It'd be superb. I'd love it. Absolutely.
You need a show all on your own just to rant about Jurgen Klopp. I think that's probably what we need.
Yeah. Jurgen Strop. Jurgen Strop is what I call him. That's his nickname, innit? Because that's all he fucking does. But it's it's a shame for Potter and Rodgers to lose a job, I suppose. Just talking on that. No surprise really for Potter. Rodgers is a funny one, because will that have implications for us with Maddison? I mean, Leicester are right in the shit. And so Jules is warning me here. Yeah, I might get taken off in a minute, Jules. I better curb the fruit language. Like Ned Flanders will be recording me and writing me down in his little journal. So, with Leicester, I think they're going to go down because they're possibly Donald Duck. There you go, Jules. Because it just seems to be too little, too late, doesn't it? They're talking about Rafa coming in to save them. Not being funny, mate, but Rafa didn't exactly set the world alight at Everton, did he?
No, but I think if you look back at what he did when he came in to Newcastle, although ultimately it
too
was
late again.
It was too little, too late. That run at the end of the season where it was at 10 games and you win 7 of them or something like that, where it was performances and it was solid. I mean, anybody going into Everton, it's a fucking basket. Sorry, it's a basket case of a club.
Mark's starting now, Jules. Mark's taking over my Howard Stern seat here. He's getting in there.
I feel it's that scene of it's Avengers, isn't it, where Captain America says something and then he gets called out on it. That's Everton's a basket case of a club. So whoever goes in there ends up struggling because it's just an absolute mess. Yeah, and he's never going to be accepted given the Liverpool links, and that was always part of the problem. I'm really surprised he even chose to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have went there if I'd been him.
There's still a good manager in there, and I think he could do a job to right that ship. If you look at their next games, during April, Leicester have got to play Villa at home, Bournemouth at home, City away, Wolves at home, and Leeds away. Now they will be looking at 3 of those games going, we need 3 wins. You could probably write off the City game. The difficult one tomorrow, probably against Villa. I think Wolves as well will be a difficult test. So they look at that and think we need 3 wins from those games, and then they finish the season: Everton, Fulham, Liverpool, Newcastle, West Ham. They don't have the easiest running, so they need to pick up their points sooner rather than later. I just think his time was done. The results have been so poor, and to drop into the bottom 3 now. That was the final straw, and I think for Chelsea, for Potter, again, I just think it was never the right fit. And by all accounts, it was all well and good. He was staying sort of up until Sunday morning when they had a meeting. None of the players knew anything about it. I think that is it Todd Bowley taking one look at the league table and gone, they're not in the top half, right, we'll get rid of them. Something is daft.
I think it's Nagelsmann. I think they've got a chance to get Nagelsmann, and they've just said, right, sod this, let's get him out and get Nagelsmann in. I think that's what's happening. I'd be shocked if he's not announced as Chelsea manager in the next few days, to be honest. But never mind them lot. They're falling to pieces as well. We're flying up the league, mate. E-I-E-I-O, as we say. So we're going to end on the big mo, the big momentum. So we've just been talking about fixtures there. So we were just talking about our remaining fixtures, Mark. So obviously we've got West Ham on Wednesday. We'll be back with a match preview and a live post-match. So everybody come join us for that. So this is our April. So we've got West Ham away. We've got Brentford away. So they're 2 difficult games back to back. Then we've got Villa away, Spurs at home, which I think will do them. Then we've got Everton away, Southampton at home to finish April. So let's just concentrate on April for now, Mark. So out of that, I'll get your take in a minute, but out of that, I am going for, so what's that? 1, 2, 3. I'm going for 4 wins out of those games, mate, and a couple of draws. What do you think?
I tend to agree with you there. I think probably a win on Wednesday, a draw at Brentford, a draw at Villa.
I'm going for that.
Beat Spurs, beat Everton.
Yep.
Beat Southampton. I think 4 wins, 2 draws, sets you up really well to then take on Arsenal, and the pressure then potentially off in terms of that being a worry for top four. But then realistically, you look at that, the last 3 games now, if you go into that last game of the season, before you would have gone, oh, Jesus, it's Chelsea away from home on the last day of the season. At the moment, you go, it's Chelsea, last day of the season. Christ, we'll go and have a party. But
if Nagelsmann comes in, new manager bounce, all that stuff, if he gets them right, because they've got a massively talented squad of players, but the problem is they've just thrown them all in a mixing pot, and it tastes like shit, doesn't it? They haven't put the right ingredients in. If he can come in and I think the biggest problem is with Potter as well. I like Potter as a manager. I think he's really good. I think Danny Murphy, I don't often say Danny Murphy makes good points because I think he talks shit half the time, but he did make a good point in Match of the Day where he said that some managers aren't suited to these bigger clubs with huge players and all that. And I think there's an arrogance of players that go, Graham, who? What's he done? Brighton. They go, fuck off. I've just won the World Cup, or I've been playing Champions League football for the last 2 years. And I think sometimes you need a manager with a little bit of credence about them that's done
gravitas.
Something. Exactly. But credibility, something in the bank to say, right, this guy's, done X with Munich, or he's got the Champions League final with these guys, or he's won the Bundesliga, or he's done this, he's done that. And, we know about him. He's a mainstream manager, and Nagelsmann will give them that. So I think if he comes in, come the end of the season, unless we're already top form, because we've got a couple of games in hand on Spurs and they've fell away, we might already be top 4 regardless. It could be a free hit, mate. But I think Chelsea might be a different cat to fish towards the end of the season. There's no way they're making top 4. They're so far off it. They're not making top 4 in a million years. But so we concentrate on April. I think we'll be looking strong into that. And as you say, Mark, finishing that May, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Chelsea away. I think a draw against Arsenal, if we're lucky, 3 points against Leeds, 3 points against Leicester, and then probably a draw against Chelsea, I think, if we're lucky. And do you think that gets us top 4?
Yeah. I think so, because I think the other two have difficult run-ins, don't they? So you if you're looking at that's 6 wins from the last 11. Don't forget, you've also got to throw in a game against
Brighton's in there somewhere,
as
isn't it?
well, which is another tough one. So if you even if you call it a draw, so that's 4 wins, 2 draws in April, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a defeat.
Great shout, Gibbo. That's cool. Yeah. He loves a goal against West Ham, doesn't he, mate? He loves
death taxes and a Wilson goal against West Ham. That's pretty much guaranteed, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, that's almost as guaranteed as a Bruno Fernandes moan in a game is a Wilson goal against West Ham. To be fair, pretty safe bet, mate. But yeah, I think momentum is with us. I think all the mainstream pundits and media are starting to go the same way. People are starting to say, actually, I can't see past Newcastle for top 4 because Spurs were shit tonight, weren't they? We watched them. They threw that game away. They got a penalty. They weren't really great with it, in terms of they weren't confident going forward.
They're a poor side at the moment.
Yeah, take Harry Kane out that side. They're fucking rank average, mate. Without him in that side, they've got nothing.
Can we just quickly talk about Harry Kane's antics tonight as well? I know it's a Newcastle podcast.
He's another one. He's another one who owes you a £5. He owes you a £5.
Absolutely embarrassing. If he was, I'm sorry, but yeah, I saw a comment earlier on. If he was Bruno Fernandes, people would be going absolutely fucking spare about that. But yes, it's a red card. Decore deserved a red card. You can't put your hands in the player's face, but to then go down, rolling around, and hold your face, stay down. He's pushed you. He hasn't punched you. He's not sucker punched you or anything without you knowing. He's pushed you. It was an utter embarrassment. And that's but that's Harry Kane all over.
I'll never forgive Harry Kane for snapping Florian Lejeune's leg. Twat. So he was twat status for me from that moment on, really, mate, to be honest with you. But he's still a great centre forward. But even if he played for us, I still wouldn't forgive him for snapping Lejeune's leg. but Spurs are a basket case, as you rightly say, mate. I was laughing my head off tonight. So I was watching the pre-match. I was in this hotel in the boozer doing my presentation in the background. I was watching the game, and you were in the pub. Well, I was in a pub in a hotel. Conte's assistant come out and they said, they were talking to him about, what will you do differently other than Conte? And he went, nothing really, just be the same. And I was pissing myself laughing, thinking, that's really what the Spurs fans want to hear, isn't it? Really, I'm just going to do the same as the guy you've just forced out the door. Really, so as Stephen says, that was an awful game. It really was. Spurs could have been in a relegation fight. Really, love watching that game. They're that bad. And obviously Michael Keane pops up with a great goal, which is a great result for us, as Roger says there. But yeah, you can't look past Newcastle, I think, just finishing on this mark. And the momentum's with us. We haven't got European football as a distraction either. If we can, the biggest thing for us, can we get people fit? Can we keep them fit? We've got Miggy to come back. Gordon looked good when he come on. If ASM's in form, if Wilson's discovered the goal-scoring touch again, Isak's playing the way he is, Bruno's fucking brilliant, Joe Linton. We are looking good, mate, going into this top 4 race. And I wouldn't, even if I wasn't a Newcastle fan, which I obviously am, I would be definitely putting my money, if I was a gambler, on Newcastle United getting top 4.
Yeah, I think, although it's tight, isn't it? All 3 clubs on 50 points. Thanks, Jules. No, thank you very much for that. All 3 clubs on 50 points. The edge sits with Newcastle now. I think the big momentum is key, and we talked about this after the break. You go away, come back, and bring that positivity back with you, and take that into the game. And they had it in spades yesterday, and hopefully you see that again on Wednesday night against West Ham.
Yeah, as Stephen says, we've got depth as well, Matt. We've got depth now. There's actually a squad there now. You
absolutely. And I think that, more particularly over the next 3 games, that's I think that's more needed, because it's 3 away games. It's 4 away games in April, isn't it? So there's travel to contend with. I know it's not that far, but there's travel to contend with. There's or lack of sort of training time because it's sort of midweek games right the way through the month. So you need that depth. I think maybe you potentially rest one or two on Wednesday. The fact that Joe Linton didn't have an awful lot of time on the pitch works in Newcastle's favour, because you could then rest Willock. I think somebody put that in the comments earlier on about just sitting him down or having him on the bench and have that impact that player again for coming in.
Sean's played a lot of football as well. He's played a lot of football, Sean, so you can maybe do the rest.
Yeah, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to disrupt the side.
Yeah,
and I think
true. True.
There's a fine balance, isn't there, between we need to rest players, but also if we take 2 or 3 of them out, suddenly the momentum goes, because you haven't got that cohesiveness in that first 11. So it is a fine line. Maybe one would step out to start with, maybe then one at the weekend, and then one. Do you know what I mean? They'll move that around.
That's a good comment by Tommy. There's a couple have mentioned that before as well. Wilson, looking back to his best, loves a goal against West Ham. Do you arguably rest Isak and protect him a bit and put Wilson back in from the start?
No. I think the overall play you get from Isak is much more beneficial to Newcastle for 60, 65, 70 minutes than it is to bring him off the bench. He gives the amount of work he puts in that sort of final third without the ball. And you saw that yesterday. The number of times he ran players down, he was willing to just go and sacrifice his legs just to chase the ball down. And you don't, and you're not going to, because he's not that kind of striker to start with, but he doesn't have that in his legs. If you can almost run Isak into the ground for 60 minutes, haul him off and give Wilson 30 minutes just to zip around it and get on the end of something, then that's perfect. As you get Isak's full fitness up, I don't think you see them swap them over unless he's carrying something.
Possibly. BT's making the point there. I think they are actually going to stay in London. I think they are staying down there. No point in coming back. I think they are going to stay rather than come back to Newcastle. And Andy's making the point there about Rice. He was amazing in St James's Park. We have to do better against him this time. I think the way Bruno was playing the weekend, though, I'd back Bruno to give Rice a real good game. I think come Wednesday night, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to touch on that BT comment about staying in London, the only drawback with that is you don't have your facilities around you.
That's
so
true.
By not
That's
coming back,
true.
yes, you'll get good ones elsewhere. You don't have your creature comforts that you have at your training facilities. As poor as they kind of are, and they need an upgrade, they're what have got Newcastle to where they are with Howe. So you lose a little bit of that, but they make the most of it. And you're right, by not having to travel again, that will suit them in that little short spell. But yeah, it's we're heading into a period now where Newcastle can really cement their top 4 place now, aren't they? They've got this rock rolling down the hill. They've got some games ahead of them that they can win, and we're seeing in the comment earlier on about Eddie Howe, learning around making decisions at the right time during games and changes to influence, being proactive in his changes, not reacting to, which is always something that we massively accused the previous manager of. Steve Bruce couldn't be proactive at any point in his entire career. He never made a decision first. He always had to react to something else going on. And it's nice to see that Eddie is now taking those decisions and changing a game on his own rather than having to wait for something else. It's just, and with the players to do it off the bench as well.
Yeah, that guy got Bournemouth relegated. What a man! What a player! Thanks again for that one, Steve. Just to end on a positive comment there. So David said he was spot on, adding the left back, centre half, and Maddison we could challenge any team in the league next season, which I think is a great way to end it on. That we'll be all over the transfer rumours in the lead up to the window open in the summer. And then I think, if we do keep this momentum going and we do finish top 4, what summer we're going to have, Mark, and we'll be all over that with plenty of content. That's us pretty much wrapped up for tonight, guys. So thank you, everyone who's tuned in. Thank you so much for the comments. It always helps the episode flow. As I mentioned at the start, if you're just checking us out for the first time, or if you haven't done already, click that subscribe. We'd love you to come and join us. We're only a couple off 2,600, so it's been a brilliant year and bit for us in terms of you guys coming and joining us. We love having you all here. It's a great community. Some great chats in the comments. Sometimes we get distracted just reading your chats rather than us just chatting.
Completely.
Completely, totally. But we're going to be back with some more content. Tune in for tomorrow. There'll be another episode of the See You Next Tuesday Club. I'm sure you'll all enjoy the inductee for that. Just make sure you're not near your kids, because you might swear when you see them pop up on your screen. And
use headphones.
Yes, use headphones. Probably a good idea. Yeah, as Audie told me in the car when his little one was listening to me talking about the last one, I think. He did have to explain what a couple of my expletives were. So sorry about that, Audie. But we'll be back as well with some post-match match previews for West Ham, and obviously a live post-match review as well. So keep it evermore, guys. Keep supporting our team. We'll call United. We're third in the league. We're mint. We're destined for the Champions League. Get your passports ready, and we'll see you next time on Evermore. See you later, guys.
Cheers, guys. Take care.